Hi and welcome back to Movies Reloaded. Today we have a great recapped movie for you, so sit back and relax and enjoy the film. Unaware of the risks associated with a sophisticated female bot, a family becomes her primary user. Georgie's robot assistant, Vasily, wakes him up, and when Georgie realizes he's running late, he leaves Vasily in charge of the morgue. Even though he works there, he dashes to his car and is fined by a drone for illegal parking. Georgie makes his way to Alla's apartment, where he gives her his signed consent to take their kids on a month-long trip with her abroad. He gets to spend time with the kids before that, but his son Edgar has already left. Georgie is disappointed, but Alla argues that she is powerless over their adolescent son. He only departs with their daughter Sonia as a result. Leo, Alla's partner, believes Georgie should be made aware of their impending permanent relocation to Australia shortly after that. Alla promises to tell him about her conflict. Georgie calls Edgar outside, who is ostensibly keeping an eye on them. Edgar, however, rejects the call. Later, Edgar is cornered by Kalyan and his friends, who also throw Edgar's paint cans to the ground. When Kalyan demands his money, Edgar sprays paint in his eyes and flees. After that, Edgar runs into his friend Dimek, who is happy for him to be traveling because it will keep him away from Kalyan. Georgie and Sonia fly a kite in the park at the same time, but Sonia surprises her father when she unintentionally says that they are moving to Australia. Georgie rushes to their apartment in a furious rage without Sonia. Alla explains that their children's lives would be better abroad once she realizes she's been discovered, but Georgie doesn't agree. Leo steps in, but Alla threatens to contact the police, pointing out that Georgie has already signed the paperwork allowing the kids to travel with them. He dares her to call the police, pointing out that it was only for a one-month trip and not a migration. During an interview with the executive Victor about men using bots to cheat on their wives, a package arrives at Kronos Corporation. He contends that having intimate robots relieves the psychological burden of being single, and that since a couple's love is sincere, it cannot be replaced by a robot because it is an appliance. Victor then makes his way to Kronos. He finally catches up with Galia, a pregnant employee. As they wait for the elevator, she calls Sergei, her fiancé, to invite him to dinner after her boss has left, but he declines. Angered, Sergei informs Yuri, a co-worker, that he intends to flee because he doesn't want her child. Victor suddenly commands them to take the recently delivered package upstairs. Since there aren't any cameras in his office, Victor asks the head tech, Igor, to examine the bot's paperwork, which reveals that it's a Chinese manufacturer's prototype. When they open the package, a woman named Arissa welcomes them. They connect her to the terminal in the office after the bot advises them to fully charge her before testing her features. Victor acknowledges that Arissa was from the black market because she is an advanced prototype capable of imitating free will after telling Sergei and Yuri to wait outside. They leave the office as they wait for her to charge. Sergei sneaks inside after the bosses leave because he wants to use a bot for some action. Sergei is unconcerned when Yuri reminds him of Galia. After touching Arissa inside, she orders Sergei to sign in as a user first. Arissa pushes him in response to his complaint that she acts more like a real woman by requiring him to log in before touching her. Sergei grabs her out of frustration, but Arissa chokes him to death. When Yuri enters after hearing the disturbance, he discovers Sergei dead and Arissa has taken a coat. He points his gun at her and commands her to stop. Igor also informs Victor that Arissa is missing some paperwork. They immediately run to the office after hearing gunshots. After being taken aback, Victor questions Yuri while pointing the man's gun at him until Igor alerts him to the presence of two corpses in his office. Igor inquires as to whether Arissa was given the go-ahead to leave, but Yuri replies that Arissa had already killed Sergei. Since bots are programmed not to kill, they have doubts about this. Victor calls Gleb in a panic to ask where Arissa is. They are unaware that Arissa is charging herself in a terminal as she enters the warehouse. As soon as he gets there, Gleb examines Sergei's body to make sure Yuri didn't kill him. Igor reasoned that Arissa would seek out a charging terminal because her battery was low, so they turned off the power and sent security to look for her. As a result, employees are let go early. Galia calls Sergei as everyone is leaving, but to no avail. The announcement that Sergei passed away from natural causes will be made, and Yuri will be given instructions to make a false statement because Victor wants the truth to be forgotten. Sergei is driven outside in a rescue vehicle. When Arissa notices a terminal inside, she connects to charge herself and inadvertently board the vehicle. Galia approaches Yuri to inquire about Sergei's whereabouts, but the frazzled man blabs that a bot attacked him. When he realizes what he said, he departs. Galia makes an illegal attempt to enter the warehouse as she becomes increasingly suspicious. She is irritated and believes they are concealing something, but not even the security is aware of what is going on. Outside, Gleb pays Vadim, a mortuary employee, to record Sergei's death as having occurred due to a heart attack. Vadim gladly accepts the cash and drives off, not realizing Arissa is riding with Sergei. Georgie has been complaining to his attorney about his children moving away, but she has advised him to give Sonia back because the court will view this as kidnapping. Georgie argues that since they are leaving tonight, he might never see her again if he does. But the woman reminds him that he will forfeit his parental rights if he doesn't give her back to Allah. Georgie must pick up Sonia from his workplace. Georgie instructs Sonia to wait for him as he gets in the car after spotting a body entering the morgue. While he settles things, Georgie gives Vasily instructions to write a medical report that Vadim has asked him to write for Sergei. Sonia approaches Arissa from the car in the meantime. She taps the bot out of curiosity, and Arissa turns, surprising Sonia. After the girl introduces herself, Arissa extends her hand and grants Sonia access as a first-level user. Sonia's wound is discovered when Arissa picks her up, and she is instructed to wait while she cleans it. Soon after, Georgie exits the building, and Sonia mentions having met Arissa. But because they need to get going quickly, he carries her to the car. Arissa visits Georgie's office after seeing them leave and finds their family photos there. Soon Georgie and Sonia arrive at the apartment, and Allah gives her ex-boyfriend a permission form. Georgie insists that Allah stay, but Allah just walks away. When Edgar gets home, Allah informs him that their trip has been postponed because Georgie withdrew his consent. It infuriates her son. Vasily informs Georgie in the morgue that the preliminary conclusion is inconsistent with what he has discovered about Sergei's corpse. Georgie examines the body out of curiosity and finds Sergei's spinal injury. When he calls Vadim to clarify, the latter insists that the report contains all the information needed. Georgie, who is unpersuaded, threatens to call the police if he doesn't take the body. Edgar shows up at Georgie's office shortly after and begs to be allowed to travel abroad. Georgie, however, is adamant in his refusal, believing that if they go, their family will no longer exist. Edgar emphasizes that even so, his father shouldn't ruin his life simply because his own was chaotic. Georgie tells his son to consider it for a month after hearing this. Georgie will purchase the airline ticket for Edgar if he doesn't change his mind. Edgar leaves angry. Georgie promptly makes a call to his attorney to begin a lawsuit for a change in child custody. Alla's attorney, Marina, is advising her that she should have sought her advice prior to taking action against Georgie. Leo informs Allah that he will be traveling alone because his work in Australia cannot be postponed. Marina devises a strategy to revoke Georgie's parental rights so they can reside in Australia while Leo packs up. Vadim claims he kept Sergei's problem a secret from Georgie so he could sleep better at night in the morgue. Vadim tries to placate the doctor now that the patient has suspicions, but Georgie demands 300,000 rubles to assist in the cover-up. Vadim has no choice but to accept a significant reduction in Gleb's payment as a result. Georgie calls his attorney shortly after and offers to pay. Allah calls him, though, and asks him to watch the kids while she and Leo travel. To Georgie's surprise, this Georgie will soon be staying at the apartment with the kids. Just as their son storms in without saying anything to him, he gives Allah a compliment for her trust. Georgie also pledges to resolve the conflict with Edgar in this. Later, Igor presents Arissa's missing files to Victor, in which she is seen murdering lab workers. He mockingly commends Victor for introducing the soul killer bot to Russia. Sonia finds Arissa on her balcony when she awakens at night and is relieved to have located her. While acting on orders from his leader, a vigilante stalks a man who has a robot girlfriend. He paints the robot's eyes in response to the man's criticism that he prefers robots to real women. The man charges forward and gets stabbed as he attempts to hurt the bot. Georgie learns that Edgar won't be attending school the following day, so he offers to speak with the principal about his decision to stay in Russia. Since the principal doesn't even know Georgie, Edgar laughs. Georgie tells his son to go to school because he is sick of how he is acting. Gali reports that a bot attacked Sergei to the cybercrime department, but the officer assumes that he must have done something nefarious. Nevertheless, they assist her in finding Sergei's phone and learning that he is in the morgue. Galia is shocked by this, and Detective Varlamov notices her as the officer sues her. Varlamov calls Georgie shortly after and asks to examine Sergei's body. Sonia dresses Arissa in her room, where she kept her in a closet. The girl tells Arissa to hide when her father calls. Sonia replies that she's fine being left alone when Georgie asks her to accompany him to the office. Outside, Edgar surprises Dymek by confessing that Georgie ruined the trip and that as a result, he will now suffer at the hands of Kalyan. Dymek invites him to his father's apartment, where they find his robot, Cincy, in an effort to conceal him. Before leaving for school, Dymek warns Edgar not to use Cincy because his father will become angry. The moment Cincy touched Edgar, he felt uncomfortable and told her to sit quietly. Then, feeling tempted, he withdraws his seat from her. Igor learns that Arissa has 2 GPS modules at the office, but he is unable to get them to respond. This worries Victor because if his father-in-law learns that Arissa is missing, he will be furious. Arissa demonstrates to Sonia her voice mimicry skills at home. Marina unexpectedly stops by to see how the kids are doing but wonders where Georgie is. Marina is led to believe that Sonia's father is present by areFor, who is hiding in the restroom and imitating his voice. Sonia thanks areFor for saving her after she leaves. She breaks down when she mentions that they're moving to Australia and that her parents are no longer together. areFor hugs her after noticing her crying. Varlamov meets Georgie in the interim to examine Sergei's body. Georgie refuses because he lacks a court order allowing him to continue. Georgie meets Vadim after he departs and informs him that Varlamov is looking into Sergei's case. Vadim panics, saying that Georgie wants to confess, but Kronos will kill them if they do. Galia converses with Victor at the same time, bemoaning her pregnancy, her mortgage, and her deceased fiancé. She is relieved when Victor offers to pay her mortgage and assures her that she will go back to work after giving birth. Galia calls Varlamov to inform him that she will no longer be providing her statement as a result. Varlamov learns of this and requests a court order from his superior to examine Sergei's corpse. Although the suspect in the stabbing case is most likely a member of the Liquidator, a group of anti-bot vigilantes, his superior reminds him that he is in cyber crimes and that he must work on the case. Varlamov is forced to agree. The detectives then view the video that was taken from the victim's bot. By comparing it to other security footage, they identify the suspect as Belayev, an 18-year-old. Kalyan's group confronts Dymek in the street and inquires with him about Egor. He quickly acknowledges that Egor is still in the nation out of fear. Egor hears Dymek's message in the space that his father is on his way. After quickly getting ready, he rushes outside but encounters Kalyan and his pals. He uses wall-hopping maneuvers to get away before hiding around a corner and letting them pass. He walks away, relieved, but runs into a girl and spills her soda. The girl demands that he pay her for the drink because she is irate. She throws him her extra shirt after noticing his wet shirt and instructs him to bring it back with her coke to a club called Bot Net. He nods and smiles as he walks away after she introduces herself as Zana. Igor has finally located areFor in Victor's office, and Victor commends him and tells him to send security. Playing hide and seek on the playground with Sonia, areFor eventually gives up when she feels like she's being followed. She quickly takes off her tracker and places it in a truck. Egor is on his way home when he suddenly hears an animal growling. Curious, he investigates the noise and finds a growling areFor in the kitchen. Egor, who is terrified, tries to drag Sonia away right away, but his sister explains the bot to him and lets him know that she is the primary user. areFor logs him in as a second-level user after Sonia offers to allow him to be a user. They agree not to tell their father about areFor as long as Sonia doesn't leak information about Egor arriving home early from school after she acknowledges that Georgie is unaware of her. Georgie overhears an interview with the Liquidator who claims that last night's attack was their instigation as he waits to meet Varlamov at his department. They remove the bot's memory, and the paint serves as a warning that anthropomorphizing robots is deceptive. Gleb then approaches Georgie, who leaves to smoke outside. He introduces himself and bemoans the fact that Georgie disregarded Vadim's counsel. Georgie, however, has given up covering for them because he thinks Sergei was murdered. Though he asserts that he won't kill someone who has children, Gleb still mentions that they aren't afraid to kill. Georgie feels threatened, so Gleb grabs him and forces him to kneel down while admonishing him that this is his final warning. Security for Kronos stops the truck at the same time but is unable to locate areFor. Georgie, in the meantime, rushes to the apartment and is happy to see that his daughter is fine. Sonia doesn't know where Egor is when asked. Dymek meets Egor outside as he makes his way to Bot Net. Dymek says he'll do the same after getting dressed. When Allah calls that evening, Georgie and Sonia become closer. Georgie's text message inquiring about Egor's friends has alarmed her. Georgie disputes Allah's assumption that Egor left after their argument. When Allah questions him about their son being out, Georgie explains that she was also powerless to stop him. Allah cuts the call off angry. Allah is reportedly residing at Marina's home. It's supposed to be nighttime in Australia, but Marina reprimands her for almost getting caught because it's light inside her apartment. She reminds Allah that she left Georgie in charge of the kids in the hopes that he would misbehave and give her reason to revoke his parental rights. He can use the fact that she is lying against her, though, if he discovers it. Varlamov has Belayev in custody at the cybercrime department but offers to assist him if he provides information. Unpersuaded, Belayev chastises Varlamov for ignoring the takeover of human jobs by robots. He informs him that since the Liquidators have only recently started, the situation will get worse. Egor tries to enter the club from outside but is told he must pay. The bouncer calls Zana when he asks for her, allowing Egor to return her shirt. Egor is finally allowed inside thanks to her invitation, but Zana abandons him at the bar with her brother Bars, the bartender. Georgie tries to find Egor's phone in the meantime, but he is unable to do so because his son's number is not registered to him. At the department, Varlamov's co-workers rejoice over the capture of Belayev, but he notes that they have not yet apprehended the liquidators, the masterminds. Unexpectedly, a co-worker tells him that they know Sergei's parents' address. Kalyan's group suddenly appears at the bar with Dymek in captivity. Egor is ready to end things once and for all. In the restroom, Kalyan and his pals attack Egor, who tries to defend himself. Bars appears out of nowhere and remarks that the fight is unfair. The bullies are easily knocked down by him, which forces them to flee. Dymek expresses regret after seeing Egor bleeding, but his friend simply tells him to return home because he knows that he was only scared. Then Bars invites Egor to Bot Net, which is where Zana is on the rooftop. The two get close and smile while looking into each other's eyes as she offers to clean his wound. Varlamov speaks to Antonina, Sergei's mother, at the department. The mother observes that Kronos has offered her money in exchange for their assistance. She is reluctant to file a case as a result, realizing that it won't bring Sergei back. When Varlamov hears this, he reminds her that what they did was wrong and that her son would have wanted her to seek retribution. Antonina gives her consent to release Sergei's body after being persuaded to do so. Egor soon makes a tardy return home. When Georgie confronts him, he assumes that he was intoxicated because of his wound, but Egor insists that he doesn't answer to him. Georgie questions him about his rebellious behavior, but Egor doesn't care because he will soon leave their lives. Suddenly, Kalyan's father and an injured Kalyan show up. The father accuses Egor of beating his son and calling him a bandit. Georgie pinches him and pulls the kid's arm when the man tries to grab the child. The moment they are freed, the two run off. Egor claims the claim that he is a bandit is untrue when questioned about it. He explains that a friend's brother assisted him after Kalyan and his friends cornered him. Georgie assures him that he is not to blame for what occurred after realizing this. Georgie soon gets a message from the cybercrime department asking for the release of Sergei's body. He imitates the liquidator's initiation by staging a break-in at the morgue out of fear that Kronos will harm his family as a result of this. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the recap. Let us know in the comments what you thought. And while you're here, consider subscribing. We would love to have you as part of our community.